Alright guys, hello everyone, welcome back to Code Tidbits. In our last class, we had discussed about the vSearch module, the vSearch function, which was sort of searching for specific letters inside a given sentence, and if the set of letters were not given, it was sort of searching for the default, the vowels as mentioned here. So this was the last time we discussed about the vSearch function, the search for vowels and search for letters. So this was what we discussed last time. In today's class or in today's session discussion, we will discuss about modules in Python. We will also discuss the intuition behind modules in Python as to why modules in Python are important and what is the utility of it and how they can be obtained, or I should say created. All right, so now that everything is context based in this discussion, when we learn from context, it's easier to understand and retain. So last time we talked about vSearch function. Okay, so going forward, suppose now that we have vSearch functions, and in this example I will use it as vSearch demo just for different file names, so that the previous module I already created a package out of that. So just for the demonstration purposes, I have renamed the file as vSearch demo. So now we have a reusable function vSearch demo, and it has two functions. Okay, so the question arises is that what is the best way to share these functions in this given file? So suppose this particular function, search for letters or search for vowels, is coming multiple times in your file. So one option can be that you can copy paste the function throughout your code base, but it would be a very bad idea because suppose it's a bad idea for two reasons. Your code base will have multiple copies of the same function, which will litter your code base and will be a very poor coding practice. And secondly, what if you want to make a change in that function? So when you want to make a change in that function, and if it has n number of places where the same instances have been placed, then it would be a nightmare to go and change the function definition at each point where you have sort of copied it. So that is why, to avoid that, there is something called as modules in Python. So but if you don't use modules and you still use the multiple copies and all that, sooner or later there will come a time when you want to update your function, and if it has multiple copies everywhere, then it will introduce lots of bugs, and maintaining that code will be a very difficult problem. So the solution in Python is modules. Strictly speaking, modules contain single canonical copy of any functions you want to share, but because we prefer simplicity, so a simpler definition would be a module is basically any file that contains functions. So in our example, vSearch demo is a file that contains two functions. It's already a module. So as I've created here, vSearch demo, it has two functions. So this is already a module. All right, going forward, so how are modules created in Python? You simply create a file of functions you want to share, and then you simply import the module using Python's import statement. However, when you are using the import in Python, the interpreter assumes that the module is in the current working directory or in the search path, and ensuring that the interpreter is able to find that path can be very tricky. So you have the file which has the functions, and you're calling it, but for the interpreter to be easier able to identify it, that can be quite problematic. So how do we go about that? So to understand that, we have to understand how are modules found. So basically there are three locations your Python interpreter will check whenever you are importing a module, or a file which has collection of functions that you require. So these three locations are your current working directory. So wherever you are currently working in your Python editor, your interpreter's side packages locations. Side package location means directories that contain any third-party Python modules that you have installed, including those written by you. So for example, you're writing some code and you want, suppose, PyTorch. So you install the Torch module and things like that. The standard library locations are the third location where your Python interpreter will check the called module. These directories are largely untouched by the developers. They contain all the modules that make up the standard library, and they are only restricted to Python core developers who are responsible for tampering them. So we as developers do not tamper with them standard libraries. So what is the bottom line? The bottom line is that whenever you are calling a module, your interpreter checks for that module first and foremost in the current working directory. But if you work with your custom modules, then this can be problematic. So let us see how. This becomes important. So let us try to move to the current working directory. So we have my modules here, and we move the Python interpreter, and let us import vsearch demo. So now that this particular file is imported, we can have the functions available to us. So we will do this vsearch demo dot. So there are two functions, search for vowels. So let us test them. Search for vowels, and let's say given argument this is the end. It is searching for vowels. So as you can see, the vowels have been written. Similarly, if I provide a custom set of letters, it will test, and this function is what we know, search for letters. So let us accordingly change it. Just giving a slightly bigger sentence, and now we can see that this particular function has returned the set of letters available in this sentence. So this is how it is working. But note that we are in the directory where this file is already there, which is the my modules too. So that is why it is facing no problem whatsoever in dealing with this. Now, so if we quit Python shell and just come out of the directory, just one step out of the directory, and do the same thing. So let us try to import the file. We get a module not found error. So there is no module found. So this indicates that the file that is already in my modules too, it is there, but we need to exactly know its location, then go in that location, and from there only we can import it. This is very, very restrictive, right? And the Python interpreter is not able to find its current working directory. So the second alternative is that we completely make our package module independent of its current working directory. Now to do that, we have to do something. We have to add that module in the side package locations. So side package locations we need to add. So essentially what happens in Python interpreter is that if a particular module is not found in current working directory, then it searches in side packages and standard library. So accordingly, because standard library we cannot tamper with as of now, so it will look into side packages. So essentially, if you can add your module to one of the site packages locations, the interpreter can find it no matter what its path. So this is the beauty of not only creating the module but also learning how to integrate that module with site packages, so that irrespective of the workspace you are in, if you have opened 10 Python projects, and you are invoking that function from a particular module, you can just import that module and invoke the function. That's all you need to. You don't need to include any path of that particular module in your code base. So from now on, we will understand how a distributed version of the module is created. So proceeding, we now get to how getting a module into site packages. So what is the site packages location? Just to revise, these are basically directories. Site package locations are basically directories that contain any third-party Python modules you may have installed externally, including those written by you. And in this discussion, this is exactly what we are trying to do and learn. Now, the beautiful thing about Python is that Python interpreter comes with the built-in ability to add modules to your Python setup. Standard library we are not tampering with because it is managed by core developers. So we are only focused on site packages locations. I hope this is clear. If it's not clear, please write to me. I'll try to answer your questions. So moving on, Python provides us setup tools to install into the site packages. So the standard library includes a module called setup tools, which can be used to add any module into the site packages. Now I understand that at this point of time it may be difficult to run your head around what is function, what is module, what is standard library. So let us just for brief, let us just see this. This is the function. So if this file would be a function, it would be part of a module, which is a collection of functions, and then a collection of modules becomes the standard library. Okay, something like this. So this is a good analogy to understand the function, the module, and the standard library. So keep this figure in mind as we proceed further. Alright, so the standard library includes a module called setup tools, which will help us to add any module, in our case research demo, into its site packages. Now this is done in 3 steps. First, we create a distribution description. This distribution description helps us to identify the module, which modules need to be integrated with inside package location. So that identification of module is important. And for this purpose, we need to create minimum 2 descriptive files, the setup.py and the readme.txt. And I'm sure many of you who would have gone through some external code based projects would have come across these 2 files quite often. So this is the reason that they are there. After we have created these 2 descriptive files, which are essentially a part of distribution description, then we need to generate a distribution file. You see, generation of a distribution file is different from creation of distribution description. So when we want to generate, basically we are using Python at the command line to create a shareable distribution file to contain the module's code. And in the last step, this shareable distribution file is installed into the site packages. So once this is installed, then you can import the module anywhere, provided you install it in your working space, and then it goes from there. So now we'll understand step by step these 3 steps. So first step is creating the distribution file. So now if you follow these 3 steps, you will end up creating a distribution package for your module. This package contains everything required to install your module into site packages, independent of the systems also. You can import it to another system, give it to your friends, they can install it. It's not a big problem. So let's go step by step. How to create a distribution description. As mentioned before, we will create two files that we will place in the same folder as vsearchdemo.py. I will shortly explain that on the editor also. The first file must be called. So must means it's a mandate. It must be called the setup.py and describes your module in detail. And it contains 2 lines of Python code. The first line import setup function, which we'll be using to describe the module, and the setup tools. From the setup tools module, the second line of code invokes the setup function. The setup function which we are invoking, accepts a large number of arguments, many of which are optional. This I will show you shortly. The second file we need to create is a readme file in which you put textual description of your package. Having this file is required even if it's empty, but it's a good practice to at least write something because it helps a third party person to understand what this package is about. So at this step we have understood how to create a distribution description. So let's jump to our code base. So you can see in this working space I have 2 directories, my modules and my modules 2. So ultimately after installing the module in the inside package location, this is what we will get, a distribution file, and then this can be installed anywhere to invoke the function. Now in this discussion I will show you step by step how we arrived at this. So that's why I have frozen this folder. So we start off with my modules 2 and then there is this function. Okay, so now there are a couple of ways to test the import. So let us say I don't want to create any package, I just want to import it simply. So we can say import, we can say from my modules to import vsearch demo. Okay, and then we can say print vsearch demo dot search for letters. Let's say this is the end, and another argument because this is search for letters. And if we try to run it now, so this works fine. You may be wondering, if this is working, why should we bother? But suppose you want to use this particular function in some other Python environment or other Python project, then obviously you'll have to import all this folder and this over there. So this is not a very good practice. Instead, what you can do is you can create a distribution package and then install it to any Python space, and then it is good to go. So this is also one of the ways if you're working locally, but if you're trying to create a distribution package which can be accessed by a large number of people, it's a better idea to provide a distribution package which can be installed in the right package location for the users. All right, so with that clear, so let us see. So we will not go in this approach. Okay, in this particular discussion we are trying to understand how to create the distribution package. So now we have this folders, my modules 2, it has this particular file. Now to create further, the first step is to create a distribution description. We need to create 2 files. So the first file is setup.py and the second file is readme.txt. So in this we can just provide a description of whatever is happening. So the package searches for vowels in a given sentence. So this is search for vowels, and letters, user given letters in an input sentence. This is search for letters in an input sentence. So now so this readme.txt comes with a distribution package, so the particular person can read about it to understand what is happening. And I have also mentioned the particular functions which are doing this. Now come to setup.py. In setup.py, as we had discussed, that it contains 2 lines of code. The first line imports setup function from setup tools. So let us import from setup tools, import setup. Now this line is grayed out because we are not using it. So now once we start using it, it will be okay. So now we say setup and then we invoke it. So there are a couple of lines of code that need to be written to understand how to describe this distribution that is getting created. So I have a sample setup.py. So this is how it looks. So setup.py, module setup.py, this is, so there's a name. This is the most important argument one. Then it has a version. So if you make any changes in your function, the version will accordingly change. So the name in our case would be vsearch demo. Okay, the description of what it is doing, the author name, author email, URL, any URL if you want to provide, and the Python modules that constitute that particular package that you are trying to distribute or on-site package. So I'll just simply copy this from here, close it, and then paste it. Remember, this has to be demo, and this also. I've not changed anything here. I've just kept it exactly like this. So now our setup.py file is also ready. Excuse me. So the basic arguments in the setup function are the name, the version, and this, since this is the first version, so I've mentioned is 1.0. The description, search tools, you can have a broader description if you want. The author name, author email, URL, and the Python modules that are part of this particular distribution package that you're creating. So now after you have created this, so your first step is complete. Okay, so you have now successfully created a distribution description. So your first step is complete. After this first step, we go to the second step. Now we need to generate a distribution description. So at this stage we have 3 files in our my modules 2 folder, which is setup.py, readme.txt, and vsearchdemo.py. Now we are ready to create a distribution package from these files, the distribution package from these files. So to create a distribution package, we need to generate a distribution file. So we will do this at the command line. In the Windows, you can use this command provided you are in the same place where these files are located, which is my modules 2. So you have to open your command prompt at my modules 2. In Linux or operating system Mac, you can use this command. When you run this command, your 3 files would have been combined into a single distribution file. A new folder would be created, a dist folder, and so the type of distribution is source distribution. So this is the argument. Sdist means creating a source distribution, and this will be an installable file that contains the source code of your module, and in this case it will be called as this. So we will show how it is generated. So the new file will be in the distribution folder, short for dist, which has been created by setup tools under the folder you are currently working in this case my modules 2. So now let us generate the distribution file. So there are 2 options you can try. Either you can use command line terminal, or you can use the native terminal in the PyCharm. So I'll try to use the native terminal. Okay, great. So I am in the folder. So now let me go to, or should I show it here? It's all in the same thing, so let me show here only. But I think it will be better for you to see here in full. Yeah. So we come out of the Python interpreter, Python shell, and let me make sure if I am in the right place. Yeah. So what happens is that now we go to module, my modules 2, and as we can see, so there are 3 files already here. The setup.py, vsearch demo, and analytic Apache cache is automatically created. It's some sort of hidden file. Not sure what that is. So going forward, now that we have there, so we have to run this command. So this is a Linux based operating system, so I will run this command and you will be able to see what happens. So let us run this command now. So python 3 setup.py source distribution. So you can see that a series of steps are undertaken, and the last is that creating distribution, creating tar archive. Accordingly, in Windows it will be zip archive, and then basically writing vsearch demo 1.0 setup.configuration. So now you can see that I'll close this. So now in my modules 2, one folder has been created, vsearch demo. So information is there, top level information, and then there is a distribution. So this package is now installed in your now it is ready to be distributed. So the distribution file is successfully created. Now what do we do? Now that you have a distribution file, the last step is to install the distribution file. So basically for installation you can just say the pip install command, and then this module is now installed as part of side packages. You can import it from any new project, Python project, and it will work very smoothly. One bit of information is that to install the distribution file, Python includes a tool called pip, which is the package installer for Python. So pip means package installer for Python. Using this command you can install it. So let us try to do so here. So basically what I actually most of the times do is that I generally use this add package command, because when I'm using this window based interface, it automatically runs that pip install command. So I generally prefer like this. This is also one of the way, but if you want you can use the command line also. In the Python console it will work. So if you were to run this here, it will work fine, but for demonstration I'll show a process that I like. So from the disk, there are two options, from GitHub or from the disk. So from the disk you can simply provide a path. So I'll go here, my modules 2 distribution, and this, and I open it, and then it will automatically install. So you can see that packages installed, successfully installed packages, vsearch demo. So you can see it here also, successfully installed. So now what happens is, now we go back to the same function. So here now, previously we had said that from modules to import vsearch. Now let us remove this from modules. Okay, so now we have removed this. Earlier it wouldn't work like this, but now we run it, it's perfectly running fine. The other thing we can do is, suppose if I want to use it in another let's say in another Python workspace. So let's say we search demo. So now I want to use it here. So what happens is that here also, because of the distribution package has already been created, now I just need to install it. So from version control, from disk, I can just specify the package. So this is the same, by default it is taking the same address, vsearch demo. I open it and I install it, and it is installed. And now I can very simply use the same thing, import vsearch demo, print vsearch demo dot search. Let's say search for vowels. I am trying to learn, and this is for vowels, so no letters are provided, and then we can simply run this. So it is there. So you can even provide this tar.gz to your friends and ask them if it's working in their system. So this is how portable packages are created in Python. So from all this, what we have got to learn, now that vSearch demo module is installed, we can use import in any of the programs, and we can be safe that the interpreter can now find the modules function when needed, as we saw. Second most important thing is, if you wish to update any of the modules code, remember, first time if you keep copying the function at different places and you need to change it, it will be a big hassle to change it at every places. But this problem is greatly solved when you create a module or distributed a distribution file. But if you wish to update any of the modules code, you can repeat the 3 steps. So what you can do is you can change the file. So what you can do is here, if you want to change something, you can change the file and change accordingly, change this setup as version number 2, then rerun all the process that we did. If a new version is produced, you need to assign a new version number within the setup.py. So this was all about module creation, and please don't forget this important photograph. This is very intuitive. It has helped me a lot in my own journey. So this is a function, this is a module, collection of module becomes a library, and you just created your first package which can be shared with others. And hopefully by this discussion you were able to understand what exactly happens when we import and how we can create our own packages, and hopefully it has lessened your anxiety about modules in Python. If there are any other questions, please let me know. And the presentation is available on request, so if any one of you wants, I'll mention my contact. You can write to me and I'll be very happy to share the presentation with you.